if your entire recovery has been built up around exercising, what happens if you stop? And that is when exercise becomes a problem, because you feel trapped then. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, as you've probably figured out, I'm going to be talking about exercise and returning to it after you've had an eating disorder or a disordered relationship with food or a disordered relationship with exercise. I haven't actually made like a plan for this video. I usually try and like to write out my points beforehand, otherwise I just start waffling. But I haven't done that today, so I apologise if bits of this are a bit like mismatched and a bit incoherent. I do just want to put out a very quick content warning. I am going to be speaking about disordered relationships with food and exercise, and I am going to briefly touch on my own past relationship with the two. If you think that this may do you more harm than good, then maybe just skip this video and come back to it when you're feeling in a better place and you feel like you are at the time where you are ready to return to exercise. Let's start at the start. For context, if you haven't watched my videos before or you don't know, I suffered from an eating disorder for quite a few years. I was first diagnosed when I was, I think, 14, turning 15. When I was diagnosed, I was told that I wasn't allowed to exercise anymore. I am a ballet dancer, and that is what I do full time now. That is my career, it's like my entire life. So at the time, I was obviously dancing, and I was absolutely devastated to be told that I wasn't allowed to dance, I wasn't allowed to exercise, and it was really scary because throughout my eating disorder I totally used exercise as a crutch. I was horrifically addicted to exercising and burning calories. So for me, having this ban from exercise was super important. Like, it needed to happen because I was so unhealthy with it. It basically consumed my entire life. Growing up, I have always been very active. I come from a very active family, so exercising and being outdoorsy and moving my body has always been a big part of my life. So I always kind of knew that throughout my recovery that it would be something that I wanted to return to, and that it's a big part of who I am. However, navigating that return is really difficult, and it's something that you do need to be conscious and careful about. Even though I know it's so easy to be so keen just to get back to it, it's deceptive as well. You know, you're probably watching this video right now because you've either just returned to exercise or you're considering returning to exercise. And chances are you're probably feeling ready. You're probably like, yes, I am ready to go. Get me back in the gym or get me back to my sport. I miss it so much. And I totally understand that feeling. I felt the exact same way. But it is so important to be slow and steady and just to question everything. Because otherwise, before you know it, you'll slip straight back into disordered patterns and you'll have to stop again. Your sport won't then be what it was. It won't be, you know, your escape, your passion, the thing that you love most. It will immediately just be taken over by the eating disorder again, and that's not what we want. You know, you want to return to exercise because that's where you truly find joy. And if you know deep down that right now it isn't going to bring you just pure joy for the sake of doing it, then it isn't a good idea. The times in which you 100% shouldn't exercise. If you are still trying to gain weight. Now, I know not all eating disorder recovery journeys involve gaining weight, but for some people they do. And if you are still trying to gain weight and figure out the size in which your body is happy and healthy, please don't exercise, because it's just going to make it so much more confusing and so much harder to figure out where your body naturally sits. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, well, my body shape is impacted by exercise, and yeah, for a lot of people it is. My body shape is definitely impacted by the exercise that I do and the career that I have, but I know that it isn't that far from how my body is naturally meant to look anyway, because I went through the weight gain. I went through the whole process of finding the size and the shape and the weight that my body is happiest at, and then slowly and surely through the addition of exercise, yes, my body has changed a bit, but it isn't an extreme change, and it isn't one that's difficult to maintain, because it's come from a point of being healthy. If you're going to embark on exercise, getting back into your sport, whatever that may be, you want to start from a healthy point. You want to start from where your body is naturally comfortable and where it's naturally meant to be, because otherwise all the changes that occur, if any changes do occur through getting more active, they're not going to be healthy changes because they didn't start from a place of health. This is why I always find it really concerning when I see people still in the early stages of recovery going, okay, I'm just gonna exercise and this is how I'm going to find my healthy body. No, it's not. You need to find the point where your body is naturally happy and healthy and then bring in exercise. You can't use exercise to figure out how your body is naturally meant to be, because then as soon as you stop doing the exercise, your body's just going to be totally out of whack again. Like, I know that if I stop dancing, my body isn't going to dramatically change because how I look now isn't that far off how I look if I'm not exercising. But if your entire recovery has been built up around exercising, what happens if you stop? And that is when exercise becomes a problem, because you feel trapped then. You think, well, I can't stop because I don't know what I'm going to look like. What if I stop exercising and then I suddenly gain 30 pounds? And then you've still got that fear, you've still got this disordered habit that is trapping you. If you're currently having a difficult time with food or exercise or a combination of the two, my biggest piece of advice to you would be to get some help. Starting therapy and speaking to someone about what I was experiencing was the best and most important step I made in terms of recovery from my mental health issues. You don't need to be ashamed to have issues, and you don't need to be afraid about being judged or opening up about things that you might feel uncomfortable speaking about. One really good way to get started would be through online therapy in the form of BetterHelp, which is why I am again so grateful to say that BetterHelp is the paid partner on today's video. As you guys know, I love working with BetterHelp because I truly believe that so many more people could be benefiting from therapy, and BetterHelp is a super easy, accessible way for more people to get involved in therapy and finally start talking about their mental health. So the way BetterHelp works is they have a huge network of therapists, and you can find the right fit for you by filling out a few questions online. You can also choose which format works best for you, whether that's video calls, earphone calls, no, that's not the right word, calls without your face in it, or even messaging, so you can find a form that works best for you. Also, it's super quick to get started, so you don't need to be preparing yourself for weeks and weeks of waiting. Most of the time, BetterHelp will match you with a therapist in under 48 hours, which is absolutely insane, and you don't need to worry, because if for whatever reason you don't click with the therapist that you've been matched with, you can switch to a new one at any time for no extra cost. Go to betterhelp.com/therealrapunzel or click on the Real Rapunzel at sign up for a discount off of your first month of therapy. Thank you again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. I guess my first piece of advice is just to be patient, let yourself and let your body figure out what it's doing first. If you've been through a period of disordered eating, your body is going to be confused, it's going to be messed up. You need to give it time to figure out what it's doing before you add in the extra complication of exercising. I know that even now, with the extent of exercise that I do, it is really difficult on my body and on my mind and on my eating habits, just trying to like figure out those things. It's been a journey for me, even now that I'm fully recovered, and I could not imagine even attempting to navigate it if I wasn't already fully recovered. Like, it would be absolutely impossible. So please just wait, please be patient, and you will get so much more out of exercising by waiting that extra couple of months, couple of years, than you would if you just start now. Recovery is about kind of like setting yourself up for the rest of your life. So, you know, think about how many years of life you've got left. It's not going to matter out of all of that time if you have to wait another couple of months before you can like embark on this new fitness journey. it will also cement in your mind that you are doing the right thing. You know, right now you might be really keen to like get back into the gym, itching to start a running journey because you've seen all the TikTokers, you know, training for their marathons and whatever, and that is fine. And I'm not trying to say that wanting to get into running or wanting to get into weightlifting is inherently disordered, because it's not. But if you want to do it and it has to start right now, that is a sign to me that maybe you aren't genuinely passionate about it. If this is genuinely something you want to do, then you'll still want to do it in a couple of months' time. Just wait, just trust the process. If it's just an eating disorder thing or hyperfixation, or you've just been influenced by social media, then in a couple of months you might be like, not really that fussed. And that's also absolutely fine. Waiting a couple more months, if it is something that you're genuinely passionate about, it won't make a difference. Point number 2, if it's something that you really want to do, then you can wait, and it will wait for you. It will be worth that wait, because taking part in activity when you don't have an eating disorder will, no matter what, be so much more enjoyable than when you do have an eating disorder, because you'll actually be fully present, you'll be fully thinking about what you're doing instead of thinking about food and thinking about how much you're burning and how long you need to be exercising for. Another thing that you need to consider before you get back into exercising is how your physical health is, regardless of your weight and your size. Restrictive eating disorders in particular can have a big impact on your heart, your blood pressure, and also your menstrual health. And I would advise that you get those things sorted out before you start exercising. I know some people might say that exercising can be a really good way to like regulate those things, but in my opinion, you want those things to be back, you want those things to be solid without exercise, and then you can add that in as an additional factor afterwards if you want to. You don't want your recovery to be built around exercise, because exercise doesn't have to be a part of everyone's life, and at some point in your life, for whatever reason, exercise might not be a part of your life, whether that's through choice or through other life circumstances, and you don't want the entire recovery world and life that you've built for yourself to be dependent on you going to the gym 3 days a week, because then your whole world is going to shatter again as soon as, say, you have a kid or you're renovating a house, and it's just not possible for you to do that. Now let's say you are actually properly ready to get back into exercise, or you've just started getting back into it and you're finding it really difficult. My first piece of advice is ditch the fitness watch, ditch tracking, get rid of the step counters, get rid of the calorie counters. If you are still enjoying exercise when you have no idea, say, how far you've run or what your heart rate was or how many calories you burn, then you know that you're doing it for the right reasons. Think about when you're a kid and you're running around all summer with your friends and you're bouncing on the trampoline and you're doing gymnastics in the garden. You have no idea how high your heart rate gets or how many calories you burn or how many steps you fit in, and that didn't ruin your enjoyment of it. You were doing it because you genuinely loved it. In fact, if you had a fitness watch on telling you that you only needed to do 10 more bounces on the trampoline to, I don't know, close your ring or hit your jump goal, then it probably would have tarnished your enjoyment of it. So I think that is a really, really good test of whether or not you are exercising for the right reasons. I think that you constantly need to question that, you know. You can't just do that for the first week and then go, oh, it's okay, I'm fine then, and then suddenly get sucked back in down that path, because for a lot of people that's how their eating disorders start in the first place. And what I don't want to see is you getting stuck in this big cycle of gets into fitness, develops an eating disorder, recovers from the eating disorder, gets into fitness, because your life is too short to just be going in this big loop. For me, a big part of getting back into exercise in a healthy way was breaking out of that cycle, breaking out of that loop. You know, I want to be setting myself up for the rest of my life rather than preempting a downfall that's about to happen. Whilst I'm telling you not to track your exercise and things like that, I also don't want you to track your eating or to have any restrictions in place at all surrounding your eating. I would actually probably advise that you're pretty much fully recovered before you even attempt to start exercising any more than exercise than you would like naturally do. So shopping with your friends and going on a dog walk, things like that, while you're still in the earlier stages of recovery and you're physically healthy, that's fine. I'd say go for it, provided the fact that you're not tracking it and you're not allowing that to become obsessive or change the way you eat. And I think that particularly when you get back into exercising by yourself and doing stuff just for yourself rather than exercising because you're going shopping or because the dog needs walking or because you're on holiday and you're like messing around in the pool, body just for yourself, that is like when you're entering the danger zone, and that is when it can start affecting your eating, and you can kind of get into the routine of only eating a certain amount on days where you're exercising, or like feeling like you need to eat less on days that you're not. To me, that's ringing alarm bells. Getting to a point where you're like intuitively eating and knowing how much to eat for your body is hard enough without adding in the additional factor of exercising. So I would say please don't overdo it, because the more you exercise, the more confusing your hunger signals get, the more difficult it is to figure out the right way to fuel the way that you're moving. So please just take it slow, take it steady. Like I was saying earlier about you've got your whole life ahead of you, you genuinely do. So there's no point going in absolutely gung-ho because, say, you've had to have 2 years off exercise and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 2 years to catch up on. It doesn't work like that. Your fitness is going to come back regardless. Like, I don't care how long you've had off, you don't need to try and overcompensate for it and get back to the health and fitness level that you were within a week. Like, take your time and it will set you up for the rest of your life. But do it too quick, do it in a rush, and you'll just end back right on your arse, right back at square one. You know, the fact that you're listening to this video to me suggests that you've already made the hardest decision of recovering. You know better than anyone how difficult that is. I don't want you to, and I'm sure that you don't want to have to go through all of that again. Be patient, take deep breaths, and remember that there are other enjoyments to be found in life that don't involve moving your body. That's difficult if you've grown up being really active, you've grown up having a sport, or just being in a family who really values activity. It doesn't mean that that is your whole life. It doesn't mean that that is your whole personality. And there are so many other enjoyable activities and hobbies to be discovered that don't involve excessive movement. And for me, whilst I was recovering and not dancing fully, like back to the level that I am now, it was actually a really positive time for me to discover some of those other hobbies and other things that I really enjoyed. For example, I really got into social media and I realised how much I enjoy like editing and filming and making videos. I really got into my art and I spent a lot of time drawing and painting. I got back into reading, I got back into colouring. This is a very niche one, but Heyday. Oh my gosh, you guys should see my farm on Heyday. It is insane. Bullet journaling. I did so much bullet journaling. Oh my gosh, I wish I had time to do it now because my bullet journals were insane. Like, they were the most gorgeous scrapbooks you will ever see. I think that engaging in those other hobbies, it's a really nice and also really important way of building up your identity outside of having an eating disorder, because as you probably know, struggling with an eating disorder, it does sort of become your whole world, your whole life, and it feels like that's who you are when it's not. Like, you are so much more than that, just like you are so much more than what exercise you do. Another thing that I think it's really important to say, I mean, I've kind of touched on it before, please don't exercise with the intention of changing your body. Now, I know I said this at the start, and you may think that it doesn't apply to you because you're already at your body's healthy, happy weight. And you're probably thinking like, oh, well, I'm not even doing it to change my body. But you're actually just saying that, and secretly you are hoping that it will change your body. Please don't do that, because the way that your body looks has got nothing to do with your physical fitness, how good you are at said sport, and that is just immediately going to take the joy straight back out of what exercise you're doing, and to me it suggests that you're doing it for the wrong reason. Something that I use a lot even to this point is I look at my childhood self. Like, I look at, I don't know, 6-7-year-old Millie who hasn't yet experienced the horrors of having an eating disorder. I look at her and I go, would she do this? If the answer is no, then maybe I shouldn't be either. Because honestly, she had her shit together. She knew what she was doing. She loved exercise. She was so fit and healthy. I used to compete in triathlons. I was a dancer. I was like climbing mountains with my family. She knew what she was doing, and she wasn't doing it to make her body look a certain way. She wasn't doing it to burn calories. She wasn't doing it so she could eat cake later that day. She was just doing it through genuine love and enjoyment. It's honestly so true that exercise is good for your mental health, and I'm not going to deny that. Exercise has so many physical and mental health benefits, and for a lot of people it is important that they do exercise. I know that for me, being active is such an important part of my life, and I do really feel it if now I go extended periods of time without exercising. But at the same time, I am only getting those health benefits because I was healthy and happy and recovered in the first place. To conclude this video, the most important thing that you should take from it is always question. Always question if what you're doing is healthy and happy and good for you, or if it is potentially sucking you back into the eating disorder. If you're not sure and you can't really figure out if what you're doing is positive and healthy, chances are it's not. And I'm not just saying that to be pedantic and to stop you from exercising. That isn't my aim at all. I know more than anyone the value of moving your body. It's literally what I do for a living. But honestly, if even part of you is feeling like it might not be the healthiest thing for you right now, then it's not. And stop, and you are not going to lose or miss out on anything by taking a couple of extra months. Please keep going with your recovery journey. Please don't give up hope. Just know that you can get back to your pre-eating disorder self who had a healthy relationship with food and with exercise and was just living their best life. You know, that can be you again. You've just got to trust the process and be smart. Don't let that eating disorder suck you back in, because you're still vulnerable to that, even if you do think that you're almost completely recovered. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you've got any other questions or like on this topic, or just anything else in general that I can answer or potentially make a video about, then please just comment them. I do I do respond to every single comment. I make that my mission and I always do it. Leave me a comment and we can have a chat, and I will be there for you in any way that I can be. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. I love you all loads, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.